Um, so I was always under the impression Angel Grove High was at least comparably as rich as Bayside High, but I guess I was under a misconception because apparently Angel Grove High is so poor they can't afford to have a drama instructor nor a proper theater set up. Um, Beyond that, this episode is probably one where people that don't like Power Rangers will point to this episode and say, that's why I don't like it. Um, I the episode Inscription had so much potential, and they used pretty much none of it. What's nice is there's some continuation of Kimberly's arc from the Peace Float stuff to here. Um, they put Tommy in a weird like Daphne from Scooby-Doo, damsel in distress, but can also get themselves out of it scenario. And Goldar also throws a net over the Dino Zord when Jason is in it in order to get the Red Ranger away from the rest of the Rangers. So the spinning wheel they've enchanted can attack the Rangers, but they've also got Scorpina there, even though we haven't seen her in like 5 episodes. This is the first time we see Titanus work with the Zords, barely. Um, Really, it's a 5 second battle after Titanus gets there. I would say Titanus is potentially overpowered, honestly. Um, I think the most distracting thing this entire episode is that they have new cameras. I don't know when they got them, if they got them between Gung Ho and this episode, but the depth of field is different, the lighting is different, the stage directions are different, the way they're facing their cameras angles are different. It doesn't look nearly as flat. And I don't think that's just because I'm watching videos on YouTube. There's too much other things happening compositionally. Um, I do like the idea of like Ernie as a pseudo Sam from Cheers. Um, I also do like I like seeing Kimberly's passion. I think it gets channeled into rage and then sometimes a little bit here it reads a little bit petulant the longer the rage goes on. I don't like that. But I like that she has things that are precious to her. I do think as a theater person, you shouldn't bring in your antique spinning wheel from your grandmother as a prop because props can get broken quite famously. I can't believe there's no other place in Angel Grove to get a spinning wheel from that's antique looking but sturdier. Uh, Jason is living his best life pretending he's doing Hamlet. Um, I'm guessing Austin St. John was doing some like Shakespeare in the Park before he became a Power Ranger. I'm guessing, because he was doing it real hard. He was trying real hard. Bulk and Skull are in this episode a lot as well. Bulk for some reason they're doing like the Rumpelstiltskin narrative as a high school play. It really does like feel as though I'm watching them make a show with teens, but for even a younger than preteen audience. Like when Hey Arnold did an episode about them doing a play, they were in like middle school, so them doing something about food made sense. Why are high schoolers doing Rumpelstiltskin when in my high school we got a new theater teacher that wanted to do Aesop's Fables? There was an absolute rebellion over it. Here, it does not just seem accepted, but also the only actors are mostly the Power Rangers and Bulk and Skull. Um, I'd argue the only good thing about this episode, really, besides seeing Scorpina in monster form, which I guess she's was still there just hanging around Witch Pandora's palace somewhere in it. Um, yeah, I kind of wish I'd gotten to see what the spinning wheel was supposed to have done. If the idea of that, because a dread wheel of misfortune, does that mean it enhances your greatest fear? Does it put you to sleep like Maleficent's spinning wheel? Obviously, Rita Repulsa knows more pop culture than Witch Pandora does in some manner. So I would assume maybe it puts you to sleep. It's so hard to say. Um, yeah, Kim's rage can sometimes turn like she got real pessimistic in this episode in a way that felt almost out of character for her. Like you can't tell me this is the first time she's faced something like this. And are you telling me that before Tommy, she just would have given up? Also, they're known members of the community. So, like, she could have made an announcement, like, at the juice bar because they went instead of talking to, like, people individually in a way that felt overwhelming. It's such a weird thing because I can see the crack of them trying to have older teenagers playing slightly younger teenagers playing for a much younger audience, but it doesn't like this episode specifically, it really doesn't work in. Like I see it every now and then, and I'm like, well, that's the age of the show. But in this episode, it seems really bad. It's kind of weird they're not just doing like Romeo and Juliet or something like that. It's weird they're doing Rumpelstiltskin. Um, which I wouldn't mind if it was like, hey, we have an acting class that everyone has to take for whatever reason. This seemed like it was pointed to doing this as performance. Also, Bulk gets called Bulk by Principal Kaplan, and he calls him Mr. Kaplan, even though he's principal. I guess that's not so out of character, but it feels like Bulk would call him at least Prince or something, Princip or something like that. It seems weird. It seems weird that nobody would call up Bulk also for not wearing his costume, and also for him and Skull watching TV backstage before the performance at the end of it. Um, this and last episode as well, Bulk gets like publicly humiliated at the end of the episode, and then everyone laughs and they kind of go into freeze frame from the laugh. I, I don't know. That kind of bothers me a little bit. Um, it bothers me I didn't find out what the spinning wheel actually does. I feel like in earlier episodes of the season or in Sentai or in later episodes of the season, like in halfway through season two or something like that, we'd actually see what the spinning wheel does to one of the Power Rangers friends or to one of the Power Rangers themselves. It feels like it could have happened to Tommy or Jason because they tried to break them both part away from the pack. And there were scenes where it was very empty without the other Rangers, but they were still there, but they were hanging back, but they were it's like in D&D when someone is checking their phone and staying instead of paying attention to when combat is. Felt like that a little bit. Um, if you tried to run this as a D&D or a one-shot campaign with the Power Ranger system, you'd have to do a lot of work to get it manageable because there's just too many spots where like, and now escalation, and now Titanus, and now one of the Rangers is captured. It is nice knowing that Tommy has a forgetful nature in some ways. So he'll have his communicator in his bag. So this is a nice, if I didn't know that though, like if I didn't know that was coming up as a much later episode, I'd be like, why isn't he just wearing it on his wrist? Because everyone else does it, especially when they teach classes. So no one's done that in a couple episodes. Quite famously in the comic, that's kind of the job they give Jason. That is one of the things he does outside of being a Power Ranger. Yeah, it's weird. It's not a very good episode, honestly. Um, Scorpina feels almost as underutilized as Zack, who has no lines in this episode. I don't think he says one single thing this entire episode. He's in the episode physically, but I don't think he even says anything while he's morphed. Or if he does, it's so inconsequential, I don't remember it. Like we heard from everyone else, but yeah, so half of the Rangers were in the episode but didn't say or do much until they were morphed in the episode. Um, they made Billy stage manager slash assistant director of this to keep the trains running, which I guess is good. But that begs to mind why Mrs. Appleby is not in charge of the production. Why is the principal in charge of the drama production? You can't tell me that school, even though it's a public high school, doesn't have at least one teacher with the drama background. I mean, I've seen Glee. There's at least three teachers at all times that want to be like captain of the Glee Club. Uh, I'm being a little sassy, but yeah. So it's Wheel of Misfortune. It was right in the title. It was a misfortune. There's a better episode in which they actually showcase what the Wheel of Misfortune does, because I like its name, the Dreadnought Wheel or the Dread Wheel of Misfortune. Like it sounds really cool. It sounds like something that you like want to explore mythologically. But then all it does is it kind of spins freely in space and then hits the swords with big spikes. It's kind of a biblically accurate spinning wheel at that point. It still begs the question of why Kimberly would donate an antique spinning wheel. It seems like such like a teenager thing to do, but more like a preteen thing to do. It'd be like, "Ooh, we need a spinning wheel for this Rumpelstiltskin scene. I'm gonna grab the one from my grandmother that she loves so very dearly." Like, wouldn't you have had that conversation with your grandmother even in the 90s? Like you have a conversation before you do that. If you really want a great episode of 90s TV involving like mishaps in a play, there's a really great episode of Clarissa Explains It All where she basically has to learn a whole bunch of lines and prints them on note cards underneath her costume. That's a much better episode of whatever is going on here. Um, I know it's partially the time period. I know it's partially who the show was really written to appeal to in order to get us to buy merchandise, but yeah, this one was rough. It was a rough one. Um, Not one I recommend highly. Did not get very high on the list. I have not had a change in my top six in a while. And coming up, we've got Island of Illusion. And then both the Island of Illusion episodes, because I think it's a two-parter, it's so hard to tell. And then the Rockstar and Calamity Kimberly were each released the day after each other. So between November 1st, 1993, when Wheel of Misfortune came out, and Calamity Kimberly, another Kimberly episode, on November 5th, there was literally a new episode released every day right after the Halloween ones. Like the blistering pace of this episode release is absolutely crazy. And again, since everyone saw it in a kind of a different way based upon kind of what city or what region you were in and how they released kids' TV shows, I wonder if people saw these out of order. Like, Wheel of Misfortune makes more sense around Shell Shocker Itsy Bitsy Spider because at that point, Scorpina had just been introduced. Seeing Scorpina again after at least three, four episodes of no Scorpina and not even having her in the background is really distracting. Like, yes, she's a threat, but she's not much of a threat, but she is a threat. And also, Goldar is there. Finster doesn't have to make a monster, so Finster is not there, I guess. No. Um, not a winner, but I guess they can't all be. I'm looking forward to Island of Illusion, though. I'm looking forward to seeing what that is, and the stills from it look great. So I'll see you next time. May the power protect you.